I guess just first of all, what was your reaction when you saw the news today about Dan and Tanya Snyder retaining Bank of America to look at potential transactions for the team?
Well, I don't know what that's all about, but I do know, we play the Vikings come Sunday, and that's kind of where I'm going to stay as far as that's concerned, because that's an ownership front office question.
And Chase, how did he look today?
Chase looked good. He's anxious. Today was a tone it down day just because we've had we're in the 8th week and going to the 9th week of the season. Really haven't had a true break, and so we just kind of toned it down with the guys. It's been really physical the last few weeks too in terms of our approach to the football game. We wanted to get these guys back a little bit, so we, took the helmets, took the pads off, and just really focused in on our technique today.
Is it possible that Chase plays Sunday against the Vikings?
That's probably jumping the gun. He did look good, and one of the things I've always told you guys, we'll see how he is tomorrow, how he reacts to the amount of work he had. He looked quick, he looked spry, he was excited. And again, we're going to follow what the trainers and doctors tell us about this.
When you went through when the Panthers were put up for sale in Carolina, what do you remember about that time, and how could you take that experience to help the situation you guys are in now?
I know we were getting ready to play the Packers just like we're getting ready to play the Vikings, okay? So, again, any of those questions, guys, seriously, honestly, I can't tell you, what's going on or why they're doing it, mostly because any conversation I have with them dealing with the organization is private between the two of us. But I do know, their focus behind us in terms of preparing for this week to play the Vikings.
I was just kind of curious of whether it was helpful at all to go through that before. All right, try.
No, and I appreciate you trying, but again, I want to make sure the guys understand that our focus is staying, on the Vikings.
Coach, first of all, condolences on your loss.
Thank you.
And we appreciate the battles that you've been through. I saw you in practice today. Just do you gain strength from your team in times of not just on the field and off the field, ups and downs, but just the personal stuff? Is this the kind of stuff you gain strength from your guys?
You do. You get an opportunity to have, when people rally around you, they show you their support. It is very comforting, and a lot of these young men have gone through it or will go through it. And, just being there for one another is all part of the team bonding process. And I really appreciate that, though. Thank you.
Ron, injuries are always kind of fluid, and I understand it could change dramatically from week to week, but it does look like Chase is close to coming back, and at some point Jahan will be back in the next couple of weeks. Do you feel like some real difference makers may be on the horizon to kind of get for the second half of the season?
Absolutely. And again, we're working, we're playing hard, trying to keep ourselves in this position. We got a big one this week with Minnesota, and I think this will be a really good test for us to gauge ourselves. But just knowing that we have some guys on the horizon getting ready to come back, I think is a huge plus for us. And, as we get those guys back, I think each one can help be a confidence booster for us. So, again, we just got to continue to work, focus on what's going to happen next, and that's Minnesota. And again, I like the fact that we are getting guys back out on the football field.
Ron, good to see you again. So sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Obviously, thoughts and prayers with your family. If you don't mind sharing, how did your mom shape who you are today and the type of man you are, the type of coach you are, and maybe shed some light on the relationship you had with her?
There was a toughness about my mom, the way she grew up. Growing up in the Salinas Valley, where a lot of the families were farm working families that worked on the farms. My grandfather worked on the farms. My grandmother did. And that was something my parents didn't want for my brothers and I. Education became a real foundation of who we are. And so that was always stressed. Sports was the next thing. My mother loved football. My dad came from Puerto Rico, and it was baseball. But football comes from my mom's side of the family. I had a couple of uncles that were tremendous football players. My godfather, my Uncle Larry, was all everything. And one of the biggest compliments I got was having an old-timer come up to me and say, "Boy, you played just like your uncle." That meant a lot. One of my other inspirations for football was my Uncle Bob, my mom's youngest brother. He was here last week. Got to see a couple of games. And having that part of the family here that was so instrumental in my development of football, that was important. My mom was very passionate about family. When you move from one military base to another, you had instant friends in terms of your brothers, and it was always all about family, keeping the family together. And so when we moved together, and she took care of the household. When my dad went to Vietnam twice, in both those instances, my mom was our coach. She pitched batting practice. She did tackling drills. I mean, that's what she did. And so if there was an inspiration in my life, more so than admiring who my father was, it was taking from my mom. And I think that's that's the that's the hard part.
Thanks for sharing that, Ron. Football question. How big of a measuring stick game is this for this football team? You have a 6-1 Minnesota team coming to town. Little added element with Kirk Cousins.
Yep.
Used to play here. Interesting, important, that type stuff.
Yep.
How big of a game is this?
Well, for us, the significance of this game obviously is a measuring stick. This is a very good football team that's coming in here. They're riding high. They have a nice win streak going, and it's a 5-game win streak. So they're playing solid football. As far as Kirk Cousins coming back, well, I think there's only 3 guys I've read somewhere that have any knowledge of it. So for the rest of us, it's interesting. And I think that's the thing that's keeping us focused on Minnesota, the team. It's a good chance for us to see where we are. It really is, and this is what you want to measure yourself against.
Quickly, there was just a report saying the Washington, D.C. police are going to have an update on the shooting of Brian Robinson Jr. Do you know anything? Can you tell us of what you know on that regard?
The only thing I heard was that there was going to be an update, and potentially there might be something about who the suspects are. That's the only thing that I was told beforehand, and I don't know anything else after that.
Hi, Coach Ron Rivera. I'm Sierra Fox, reporter at Fox 5 DC. First off, sending my condolences to you and your family.
Thank you.
But I wanted to ask, do you believe that the distractions off the field with Dan Snyder are impacting yours and the players' performances on the field? If so, how?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us is we just try to focus on what we can control, and that's playing the game. So what we've tried to do, we've tried to stay focused in on the next game we play, more so than anything else. To us, that's what's important. The only time it really becomes a distraction, obviously, in all honesty, I think, is when it gets brought up. What we try to do is we try to avoid those things that we talk about that are interesting, as opposed to what's important to us, to what we do, and that's play the game of football.
Do you feel that it is time for change and a new owner?
No, I think what it is, it's time for us to focus on playing football.
Why did you guys trade William Jackson, and what did you make of the return you got for him?
Well, the biggest thing is, and I talked about it yesterday, was the evaluation we didn't suit the fit. We are a zone match defense in terms of our concept, in terms of coverage. And one of the things that we try to do is we match guys, we pass guys off, we switch coverages, we read coverages, we read through our man to the quarterback, and to give ourselves an opportunity, and some people felt that there would be an opportunity to take his skill set and use it to benefit us and to fit in what we do. And that's really where we were wrong in terms of the evaluation.
Wrong, I guess, how do you correct that evaluation for next time?
Well,
the evaluation process.
Because now it's really, once we talk about the skill set, we talk about can that skill set be fit to what we do. And that's probably the biggest thing we learned from this, Ham, is that, hey, we made a mistake. And so instead of prolonging the mistake, halfway through the year, we decided to go another direction. It just so happened to coincide with his injury. And so for us, what we did was we tried to make the best of it. We gave Benjamin St. Juste the opportunity. Benjamin's done a tremendous job. Wild Goose has got an opportunity to play at the nickel, and with Danny Johnson, got an opportunity to be elevated and back up at the nickel position. So, we kind of like the idea of what we're trying to do in terms of fitting guys to what we do, as opposed to, just looking at that skill set and saying that's it. And again, as I said, that's probably where, we were wrong.
Take a couple more, Ben and Tom. To that point of sort of the fit and expanding beyond cornerback, does that include your current quarterback circumstances whenever Carson is back, considering what Taylor has done in the system and that Scott Turner's offense?
Well, yeah, he does. But I will tell you this, that for this week, Taylor's going to start against Minnesota.
Fair enough. What in terms of some other injuries, Cole Holcomb and Danta, where are those guys?
Well, Cole's progressing, and again, we'll see how he is tomorrow. Again, the big thing about a lot of these injuries, guys, is that we put them through, some workouts. We put them through their rehab program, and then it's always about the next day. The next day is what helps you in terms of progressing from that spot. But Cole has progressed. He's headed in the right direction. I think Jahan is as well. But again, we've got to be smart about what we do.
You've got all this going on, and I know you don't want to talk about the other stuff, but it's still in the air. You got your personal stuff. You got a big game coming up. How are you sitting there being calm, and how are you able to do that?
The example my mother set. You know, her husband goes to Vietnam twice, and, you know, she had to maintain, and that's what I've tried to do. You know, my father's always told me, when you're in charge and all hell's breaking loose, if you're out of control, your men will be out of control. If you're in control, they'll see you and they'll have confidence that you know what you're doing.
And then, again, how do you, because you guys have had to deal with a lot of issues over the years, does that help when you go, if you go to them and say, hey, this is what's going on, let's focus, how much does all the past stuff help now?
I think it helps a lot. I think our guys understand, you know, and as far as they're concerned, that's the interesting portion. I think they're learning that, and I think that's helping them to get through these times. You know, we've had several players in the last couple of years that have gone through what I've gone through, and they're young men. And to watch our guys rally around one another, it's tremendous. We had a young man last year that lost his mother going into the Raiders game, and he didn't know what to do. And I said, look, you're going to go home, and you're going to spend the week with your family, and then we're going to see you in Vegas. But you got to be ready to play. So he went home, spent the week with his family. His coaches contacted him every night. They talked about what we put in. And his teammates called him every night. He showed up in Vegas with a heavy heart and played his butt off for us, and we won a game. I think our guys have learned how to handle these types of situations, circumstances, because of who they are as young men. And I think they rally around each other because they trust and believe in one another.
Does that apply to the off-field stuff, like the sales stuff? Does going through before help with that too?
Well, I think just knowing that, again, that's something that, you know, I'm going to term as interesting, and I think the guys will understand that. They also understand that they don't know a lot about what's going on, and so they'll stay focused, hopefully, on getting ready for Minnesota.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Chase Young next.
Oh.